This is going to be a long video. I think it's going to be over 40 minutes long. It's going to be about rain gear, basically waterproof, windproof, hunting in inclement weather, snow, whatever. It's going to be about clothing for hunting in all those different situations. And I like hunting in the rain. You know, they're back in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, and 80s. They didn't make rain gear. They had really noisy rain gear, had PVC linings. It wasn't very comfortable, it was real rigid. So back in those days when it rained, I went hunting and I just got soaked to the bone. And just about every year I would catch the flu because I was always getting wet during, you know, mid 30s, 40 degree weather, and soaked to the bone, and you just tend to get sick, and I just dealt with it. Nowadays there's awesome rainwear, and you know, everybody should have good rainwear, and they make, you know, I like to have a lightweight, a midweight, and a heavyweight rain gear. So I want something for when it's, you know, 50 to 70 degrees. I want something when it's 25 to 40 degrees or 50 degrees, and then something when it's, obviously if it's going to be below that, it's going to be snowing. So when you're buying something for winter, when you know it's going to be below 30 degrees, if you buy something that's windproof, that's really all you need. And I'm going to go through the whole windproof versus waterproof, what's the differences in the membranes and the tape seams. But when you're buying something for cold temperatures, when it's just going to be snowing, you don't have to worry about having it waterproof with tape seams, because basically the snow is not going to, the moisture from the snow is not going to penetrate through the seams and get you wet underneath the suit. So cold weather is a little bit different. All you need is something that's windproof. It's got a windproof membrane with no tape seams, or some kind of a coating on the outside, because the snow will just flake off basically. But I love hunting in the rain. Statistically, I've shot a lot of bucks in the rain, especially when you put the bucks that I've killed, the amount of bucks I've killed in the rain or windy weather or snowy weather versus the amount of time I've spent on stand. My percentage has been much higher. I think in heavily pressured areas, mature bucks tend to like to move better in light rains or, you know, winds up to maybe 15 miles an hour, because they don't have to react to everything. Every time when it's dry, and I've seen a big buck in Michigan, every time they take a step and crunch a leaf, you know, they stop and wait for a reaction. When there's rain and wind to mask their movements, you know, they tend to just move. They just move from A to B, and they don't put a lot of thought process into it. They just make those movements. So rain makes them feel more comfortable moving. Obviously, there's less hunters. You know, if a deer's 3.5 years old or older, I'm sure in their history they've noticed there's fewer hunters and less danger in the woods during times of precipitation. Now, I like hunting in a light rains is my favorite, but I'll even hunt in a moderately decent rain. But if it's a straight downpour, I won't waste my time. And I've shot bucks in winds up to 35 miles an hour when it was like 7 degrees. So I've hunted in some really nasty conditions, and I used to just deal with it, but now there's some really nice clothing. So I'm kind of, you know, when it comes to hunting in the rain, I don't enjoy it, but I like doing it because my statistics are higher percentage based when I've had my opportunities to spend hours on stand in the rain. So I'll do whatever it takes if statistically my percentages for a kill is going to be higher. And one of the easiest ways, if you're walking through a store and you're wondering if something is waterproof or windproof, if it's waterproof or windproof, it's going to have a membrane. It's going to be a polyurethane or a Teflon membrane or a combination of the two. And the easiest way to tell, this is a Rivers West jacket. You're going to see a lot of Rivers West in this because I believe it's the best product out there for the money. Just take your hand, slide it up one of the sleeves on anybody's. I don't care whose it is. If you cannot blow air through it, like I can't right now, it definitely has a polyurethane and or a Teflon membrane in it. It's going to have a membrane in it if you can't blow air through it. Now, there are companies, Polar Fleece used to make a really dense napped fleece, and they used to call it, it was not windproof, but it was wind resistant. but you can still blow air through it. So if it's truly waterproof or windproof, it's going to have a membrane in it, and you cannot blow air through it. And I hope you enjoy this video. It's going to be a long one, so sit back and enjoy, and just never forget, you can kill deer in the rain. I've done it a lot. We're going to show pictures throughout this video of bucks that I've shot either in rain or snow. And when you take the amount of bucks I've shot versus the amount of time I've spent on stand in rain, my percentages have been so much higher during precipitation, snow and rain than during dry weather. Okay, we're going to do a video on rainwear and windproof gear, and we're also going to do some extensive stuff on scent control. But scent control is going to require a lot of shows, probably 3 or 4. So I don't know if I'm going to get to that this year. I'll probably do it in the spring so people can prep for 2021 season. Scent control is super easy once you get the process down. I can basically pull up behind anybody else that I'm hunting with. I'll be out of the car ready to go in the woods before them. That's almost a 100% guarantee. I can be out of the car within 2 or 3 minutes. They usually have to get out of their truck, walk around the back, pull their totes out, fumble through crap. I just step between the seats, get my stuff on, put my exterior on, grab my bow and backpack, and I'm in the woods. But this one here is on Raingear, and it's going to take a bit. I'm going to start with the simple fact that modern day rain gear has either polyurethane and or Teflon membranes. And those are sort of a weave, so you can make them tight or you can expand them, especially on the Teflon side. But anyway, they're membranes. They do make noise. When you wiggle them around, they make a little crackling noise, and the colder it is, the more they make a noise. And because you can't see them on most rain gear, this here is a Rivers West. I'm a huge Rivers West fan. Been using Rivers West for almost 30 years, since their inception. Take that back, about 20 years. That's about how long they've been in business. And they're out of Seattle, and basically Rivers West was started by a guy named Mike McGinley. He worked for Patagonia for years, and he was an elk hunter and a blacktail hunter. And when he retired from Patagonia at a relatively young age, he wanted to actually manufacture some rain gear that no matter what type of weather it was, you were going to stay dry. Because he used to wear Gore-Tex stuff by Browning, and if it rained real hard, he typically got wet at the seams, or if he sat in water, it would seep through the membrane. So the stuff that he makes now, you can sit in a pool of water and it won't seep through. But anyway, this here is Rivers West, and this is just this is not something you'd wear hunting. This is something you'd wear scouting. And the reason I'm even showing this is it's a pouch that turns into a jacket. So it's a packable rain gear. And this one, you can actually see, well, certain places of it you can anyway. You can see the membrane, because there's a membrane that is actually attached, and you can also tell the noise factor. That's the noise of the membrane. But there's a membrane attached to this exterior fabric, and that's the same polyurethane membrane that's attached to just about any waterproof gear you buy. I don't care what brand it is. They all have polyurethane or Teflon membranes. So this is just a packable rainwear by Rivers West. You can get it in solid colors or camo. And this is just what I wear for scouting in the spring, prepping locations if it's raining in the spring and it's cold out. And that's also to give you an idea of how noisy the membrane is. Now, to give you a little bit of a clarity, this stuff here has been all treated. This has all been, all my waterproof stuff over here, which is Rivers West for the most part, a little bit of Browning gear in there, a little bit of scent lock. But it's all been, other than the scent lock, it's all been washed in scent-free detergent and dried in a clean dryer. And then as soon as I do that, it goes into an airtight container. Once I wear it one time, it's compromised. I wash it, dry it again, put it back in the container. So these are basically my waterproof garments that I've worn over the years as my exterior for the last probably 15 years. Because scent lock, I'm a huge Suntlock guy because I'm an activated carbon fan, but Suntlock has never made any rainwear that I thought was very good. So up until like 2 or 3 years ago, I always went to Rivers West for my rain gear because I felt it's the best in the category in the marketplace. And so I'm going to be showing you some Rivers West waterproof. This is their lowest price point. You're looking at $60, $70 per piece per pant jacket. It has a micro fleece exterior, and this is waterproof. Keep that in mind. Everything Rivers West makes is waterproof. So this is their price point, waterproof. To me, I can still hear that membrane, so it's still a little bit noisy for me. Typically what I'll do with this is if I'm recovering a deer in the rain, or else I will also wear this during post-season scouting and tree preparation if it's raining, because this is a lot better quality as far as heft-wise than that other one, than this weather beater. So this one's called the Pioneer. Now this here is an old Browning. This one here is has a Gore-Tex liner, which is a mix of polyurethane and Teflon. And this one you can actually see, here you go. This one here you can actually see, if you zoom in on that, you can see that white membrane. And then it's just got a mesh interior over that membrane. But that white membrane is actually adhered to this exterior fabric. So, on all waterproof suits, the membrane is adhered to the exterior fabric. So when you're making a waterproof garment, every place where there's a stitch, where there's a seam, like right here around the bottom of your neck, or down the sleeves, or around your shoulders, any place where there's a seam, if it's a waterproof suit, if it's labeled waterproof, it has tape over top of the seams. So there's going to be a waterproof tape that's applied over the seams when they make it on the inside of the membrane. That's what makes it waterproof. And that's why on a lot of hang tags you will see they'll have on the hang tag not to dry a waterproof suit in a hot dryer. Because what happens is that waterproof tape over the seams will delaminate from the membrane, and then that suit will eventually leak at the seams. So the difference between a waterproof suit and a windproof suit is a waterproof suit has tape over the seams, so that renders that seam waterproof as long as it's not compromised by putting it in a dryer too many times. Now on a windproof suit, it's the exact same polyurethane membrane attached to the actual fabric, but on a windproof suit they do not tape the seams. Now the seams are overlapped and then they're stitched, so you've got basically 2 layers underneath the stitching because they're overlapped when they're stitched, but still if it rains very hard you're going to get wet at the seams. So windproof suits are relatively waterproof. The whole body of the pieces are waterproof. But if it rains really hard and you sit in the rain for a long period of time, you will get wet at the seams. But if you're in a light rain, typically a windproof suit's going to do you just fine. So this here is a Gore-Tex. This is an old Browning, and I've hunted in this one a few times. And as you can see, that's Gore-Tex. In my opinion, Gore-Tex is absolutely no better than the polyurethane membranes. They're all waterproof. So. In fact, Gore-Tex, a lot of times I think Gore-Tex is inferior. It depends on what the Gore-Tex is made for. You know, like if Gore-Tex made membranes for jogging suits, and when they make a membrane for a jogging suit, they actually open up the weave. So the weave is bigger. So it allows some permeability through it. So a lot of times in a jogging suit that they used to make 10, 15 years ago, I probably still do, but back when I jogged, if you ran a ways, the outside of your suit would actually have the moisture from your perspiration. The inside would stay relatively dry. It wicked it to the outside. But if it rained, because they had to open up the weave for that permeability, if it rained very hard, you got wet. So it was not truly a waterproof membrane. They can control that by how big the weave is in the actual membrane itself. Now this is another Browning. Now this one here is just windproof. This is a windproof jacket, and again, it's got a Gore-Tex membrane in it. I wear this a lot. I've worn this a lot over the years. It's very, very well made. It's got triple stitched on all the seams, and this has just been a great, great piece. They don't make this anymore, but this was a Hydro Fleece wind barrier jacket. And when I used to wear permeable exteriors, like a cotton or something that's really quiet, even if it was insulated, yet it was permeable, I would always wear this underneath it because this has a membrane in it. Even though it's windproof and it does not have taped seams, it still blocks the wind. So when I'd wear something as an exterior where the cold winds would blow through it, this would stop those cold winds, and it'd also keep my body heat in. And I have several of pieces like that. This here's another one. Now this here's strictly a layer garment, and this one here is made by Scentlock. They don't make it now, but they did. And so this has activated carbon in it, but I don't use it for that function whatsoever. This is strictly a layer garment, and this here was also windproof. So this here has a membrane in it, and if you notice, I took the collar off. I don't like having a lot of collars up here. You know, if you wear two layers and they got collars, your exterior jacket's got a collar. A lot of times your base layer's got a collar. You start choking yourself and you start gagging and you're always coughing. So I cut the collars off a lot of my stuff, and you're gonna see that more as I go through this. So this is a Scentlock, and anytime if you get the opportunity, and they're not that expensive, if you see a windproof vest, definitely buy one. They're probably gonna be 60, 70 bucks. And wear it underneath your exterior, because it's gonna, not only is it gonna block the cold winds from coming in, it's also gonna keep your body, your core body heat from going out. It basically holds your body heat in and keeps the cold winds from coming through. Also actually helps in controlling your body odor, because your body odor molecules can't pass through it either. Because the two words waterproof, breathable should be illegal. I mean, they should never be able to use those in a sentence together, because it's either waterproof or it's permeable. You cannot take a waterproof piece of fabric and put it over your head and survive. It does not breathe. And I'll never forget, I was doing an in-store, and it was actually training. And I had this group of employees, and I was actually talking about waterproofing suits, and I said, you know, waterproof fabrics with membranes, they're either waterproof or they're permeable. You can't be both. So this one girl said, well, my boyfriend owns a Browning suit, and he said it's permeable because it, you know, it breathes. It says it's breathable. And I said, well, it's not. I said, to be labeled waterproof breathable, all you got to pass is a simple and relatively stupid vapor test, where they put the fabric over some boiling solution, and if a X amount of tiny percentage of vapor passes through the membrane, then it's allowed to be called waterproof breathable. But and she still didn't believe me. She said, well, he says it's breathable, and it's just like wearing regular permeable cotton clothing, yet it's waterproof. And I said, well, that's not true. And we kind of argued about it, and there's like 10 people sitting here in this little room. And I said, I'll tell you what, you go out in the store and you grab your lightweight Browning Gore-Tex jacket, which is very similar to what I just showed you. Because I didn't want it to be something that had a lot of heft in it and insulation. I wanted it to be thin, so if it were permeable, like she says, the thinner the piece, obviously the more permeable it would be. It wouldn't have to pass through insulation. So I went out in my car, because I've done these tests before, and I grabbed this great big, I had a 3-speed round fan, probably that big around. And I brought it in the store, and she got me a double extra large Browning Gore-Tex jacket, and I draped the jacket over the fan, and I turned it on high, and it just bowed out like a balloon, half a balloon on the one side. And then I took a cigarette lighter and I lit it on the other side of the jacket, and the flame went straight up. It didn't even flicker. It was going straight up just like it was, you know, still room. And she said, well, it breathes from the other side. I said, hey, no problem. So I took the jacket off, turned the fan off, took the jacket off, flipped the jacket around the other direction, turned the fan on, same thing. Now the inside of the jacket's blowing out like a half a balloon. Lit the lighter, flame was straight up and down. Didn't move at all, didn't even flicker at all. So I proved to her and to her people that were in this training seminar that, you know, the stuff doesn't breathe. I don't care what brand it is. It's waterproof, it doesn't breathe, period. Okay, so I went through the Rivers West lightweight. I'm going to show you some other Rivers West stuff I've worn over the years. Now this is one, again, I cut off the collar. It used to be a pretty tall collar. This is a backcountry, and this was one of my favorite jackets, and I wore this as an exterior a lot. And when I first bought this jacket, what I did, because this has a really deep napped and a really tight weave fleece in it, polyester fleece. So to test it to see how much noise the membrane was going to make when it was cold out, because this is a cold weather garment, you just layer under it as needed because it's a waterproof, non-breathable exterior. I took and I put this jacket in the freezer at night, and then in the morning I took it out of the freezer and wiggled it around just to see how much noise it was making. Now my freezer gets down to about 7 degrees, 5 to 7 degrees, so you know I don't hunt in weather much colder than that, so that was a good test and it didn't make any noise. And then to test the waterproofing, and this is the actual jacket, and this is back in 2003, I think, somewhere in there. It was a super hard rain coming, and so I went to a hunting spot where I didn't think I was going to see anything that I would want to shoot. I just wanted to sit in a hard rain and see how waterproof this was. Because this stuff at the time, Rivers West made it, it was a triple layer, and this stuff was just absolutely awesome. And it rained hard, and I mean it was a torrential downpour for probably an hour and a half, and I was bone dry. Didn't get damp at all. Now the suit, anytime you get a suit and it's got a deeper napped exterior, which is actually used to mask the noise of the membrane, because membranes are noisy, like I said. The only way to mask the noise of the membrane is with the depth of the exterior fleece and how tight the weave is on the exterior fleece. So this was very quiet, and it was, I still wear this a lot, and it's 20 years, almost 20 years old. Now they make several suits. They make the Pioneer, which I mentioned. They make a Stalker. They make an Artemis. And those are all mid-weight suits. And this is one of them. So this one's kind of a nice suit. I like the camo, but this one here, again, it's waterproof. And this is one of their older designs. So it shows they used to actually take a piece of this fabric with their membrane on it, and they would put water on it. They would actually pour water on top of the fabric, and they'd have 250 and 300 pound men come in and jump up and down trying to push water through the actual membrane, and they couldn't do it. Gore-Tex, you can't do that. It will definitely pass through Gore-Tex. Now this is, let me see if I can find it. Now back in 2004, I used to rep for Rivers West, and I repped for it because I thought it was the best garment of its time, and I still think it is. But I helped them design this jacket here, and it's called the ambush jacket. Now the ambush jacket is still the same design, still has the same design features, but they've changed the make of it a little bit. Now it has a really deep napped Sherpa liner on the inside, so it's really warmer than it used to be. This one was pretty warm because this has a heavier depth fleece than the one I just showed you, that backcountry. But the way I designed this, I designed it so it had a shirt tail hem, and basically that was the start of these shirt tail hems. You see a lot of that now. A little longer in the back. It's cut a little bit shorter in the top, because usually when you're bow hunting, you're in a sitting position. So you didn't want all that bunched up fabric here, yet you wanted a tail to drape over the back of your pants so you didn't get water down your pants. Also designed it so it had a collar, because one thing that really bothers me is the front of my neck. That's why I hate collars. So this here has a stand-up collar in the back. It's really tall, but if you notice, it comes right down in the front until it's way underneath your chin. So when you have that thing on, you know, you can move your head side to side without chafing your neck right here with a collar here. Yet this back of this collar steps up pretty high up into here, yet it dips down below your ears so you can hear. And it came with if I can find it. Nope, didn't come with that. Bear with me. It came with a hood. Ta-da, there it is. And it still does. Design-wise, it still comes with a hood. So the hood is detachable. It's not fixed. It snaps off. And I designed the hood so that if people that do like hoods, it has a draw that goes around the back of your neck, so you can tighten it around the back of your neck, and you can also tighten it. It has another draw that goes around your face. And that one was put there because a lot of times when you have hoods on and you just got a basic hood cinch here, you turn your head and you're looking at the inside of the hood. So this one I designed where you could tighten it around your face, so when you turned your head, the hood would turn with you. But still, it covered your ears. And to me, if you can't hear, that's not acceptable to me. So I made this where you could take the hood off. It still had this stand-up collar in the back. And then I shouldn't say I designed it, because this is very similar to a Columbia widgeon hat, which is for duck hunting. But I had them make this. We made a couple alterations to the original design of the Columbia. But this hat here has a really short bill in the front, so it keeps the rain out of your face, yet it's not going to impede your string. And back then, bows were longer. They weren't 30 inches long, so you had a little bit more of a string angle down here. So it wasn't going to impede with your string. And then when it rained, your ears are still exposed so you can hear, and the rain would hit the hat, and basically the rain would go down off of the top of the hat. And because the collar on this jacket was up so high, and it still is, this jacket's still being made, it's called the Rivers West Ambush jacket, the rain would just kind of slither off the back here, because this flap kind of overlaps down into here on the jacket. So that was one of the design features, because I absolutely hate hoods that cover your ears. And in my opinion, that is the best, warmest, waterproof garment made today. Rivers West Ambush. Sitka makes some really awesome stuff. Badlands makes some really awesome stuff, but for the price point, you're looking under 200 bucks here. Sitka, in my opinion, even though it's phenomenal stuff, I think it's overpriced. It has kind of a cult following, in my opinion. It's overpriced, but whatever. People that can afford it, it's good stuff. Another thing Rivers West makes, and this is just a street jacket. This is called their Cascade jacket, and I think it's still in the line. And it comes in black, navy, gray, just regular street colors. And it's a waterproof jacket. And again, it had a collar. I cut the collar off, and this is another one of those layering garments I'll wear underneath something that's permeable to hold my body heat in, or to keep the cold winds from penetrating through to my core. So this here jacket basically does the exact same thing as this one. The Browning one was strictly windproof. It didn't have tape seams. The Rivers West one is waterproof. So as an undergarment underneath my exterior layer, if we do have a hard rain, I'm still going to keep my body warm. And they also have pants to go with that. Oh, by the way, when I did design this, I'm pretty proud of this fact. When I designed this Rivers West ambush jacket, it won the 2005 Field and Stream Best of the Best Garment Award that year, in 2005. Now this is a Kathy Kelly custom design pack. I had Rivers West send me some fabric, waterproof fabric, and then I sent it to Kathy Kelly. I think she's out in Oregon or something. I don't even know if she's still doing this. And I had her make me 3 of these waterproof backpacks, because when you're hunting in the rain, especially if you're going to hunt several days in a row, it's kind of a pain, because if you're putting layer garments in here, or you've got stuff in here that's fabric, I usually wear a scent lock backpack made exactly the same as this. Kathy Kelly makes those too for me. But if I know it's going to rain, you know, again, this is washed in scent-free detergent, thrown in a dryer, because Rivers West stuff you can't throw in a dryer, it doesn't hurt it like it does other waterproof stuff. But anyway, I had some waterproof packs made that are identical to my scent lock packs. And it's kind of nice to come back and everything inside your pack is dry. And then you can just, I've got 2 or 3 of these, I just swap them out if that's wet and I don't have time to dry it before my next hunt. And then lastly, excuse me for a minute, on the non-activated side, non-activated carbon side, this here is a suit that I've had, oh my God, back into the late 80s, early 90s. This is a Browning Hydro Fleece suit. At the time, this was the creme de creme. This was as good a suit as you could buy. This was like $500, and this is a jumpsuit. If you bought the 2-piecer, it was $550. And back in those days, that would have been like $1,000 now. But this was waterproof. It was Gore-Tex, which was basically all Browning ever used. Everything's triple stitched. Excellent, excellent quality garment. Very expensive. I don't wear that anymore. Okay, now I'm going to get into scent lock stuff, and all this scent lock's ready to go. So I'm going to handle it with gloves, because scent lock now makes, over the last 2-3 years, they're coming out with some pretty decent waterproof and windproof garments. This here's a midweight. I guess I'll just get out the jacket. This is called a wind brace. And it's called a wind brace because it's a windproof jacket. So this has the membrane, but it does not have tape seams. But it's pretty rare. This has a pretty heavy exterior fleece. It's pretty rare that I wear this when it's above 30 degrees. So the rain is not really going to be a factor, because if I'm hunting with this on with other undergarments underneath, it's going to be snowing, not raining, so I'm not going to get wet. But this blocks the wind, and this, I wear this a lot. It's called a wind brace as my exterior suit. It's not overly expensive. I think the jacket's $1.59 and the pants are $1.59. It's absolutely a great suit. There's no insulation in it. It's just got a deep fleece interior. It's got a deep fleece exterior, and you just layer under it as needed. I like doing that, because if you get something with a lot of insulation in it, you sweat your butt off on your entries and exits. I'd rather go in a little bit light and then put my stuff on once I'm up in the stand and my body cools down. I put on my layer garments. And that's the pants that go with them. Now, I borrowed these from somebody. These are not mine. They still have the hang tags on them. But this is Scent Lock's, I think this is relatively new. This is called their Vapor suit. And I believe this is a midweight. It's waterproof, so it has tape seams. What I don't like about this is it has an attached hood. You cannot take it off. So other than the hood, I'm sure this is a pretty nice jacket, but that's called their Vapor, and that's a waterproof midweight. They also consider that wind brace a midweight suit as well. If you still have time to get these they took out of their product line. This is called a Cross-Tech jacket. They make it in camo and they made it in black. This is a bad suit. I mean, by bad, I mean good. I want to say another word, but this has Primaloft insulation in the body. Not a lot, but it's also waterproof. So it's got tape seams on the membrane. And again, has Primaloft. Primaloft is hands down the best insulation in the marketplace. It blows Thinsulate out of the water. Much warmer. And it costs a lot more. You typically see Primaloft in the ski industry. Sitka also makes products with Primaloft in it. And I believe Badlands does as well. But this, I think, is still on their closeout list. And again, it's called a Cross-Tech, and they make it in a vest, and they make it in a jacket. So if you get the opportunity, definitely buy one of these and buy it a size bigger than what you would typically wear as a shirt. So, because this here is something that, this is going to be my layer garment that's closest to my exterior garment. Because of it's got the waterproof membrane in it, tape seams, and the Primaloft. It's just going to keep everything below it nice and warm. And a lot of times if I want to have freedom in my arms, I'll just wear the vest. Again, it's a Cross-Tech vest. It's the same thing. And when you're buying it for a layer garment, doesn't matter if it's black or purple or whatever color. It can be white. So, but they also make it in camo. Now, this is a suit I got. This is mine. And I have made some huge alterations to this. This also has Primaloft insulation. This is a ScentLock suit. It's called the Hydrotherm. This is the best exterior suit I've ever worn in my life. I was blown away the first time I wore this because the sleeves are kind of tight. And the sleeves also had an interior cuff up the arm a ways. I cut those off. First thing I got them. There's no reason to have an interior cuff up the sleeve, because then when you go to put on something and you got undergarments on, it just pushes it up and makes it really uncomfortable. So I cut those inner sleeves off, inner cuffs. This also came with a hood. And I have two of them. There's the one with the hood, and I'm going to cut this hood off this year. So I had, last year, 2 years ago, when I first got this, one of the first things I did was I took it to a stitch shop and I had the hood cut off, and I kind of made it where the collar was a little bit higher in the back and short, no collar in the front, just like on that Rivers West Ambush jacket. But this here has a considerable amount of Primaloft insulation in the body of the suit, and then it has some less in Primaloft in the actual sleeves. And the first time I wore this, it was like 12 degrees. It was really cold, right around hovering around 10 degrees. And I got up in the tree and I went to put on my second undergarment because I had a heavy base layer on. I couldn't get my sleeve with the second layer. I couldn't get it down my sleeve because it was just too tight. So I took off that layer and then I just put on a vest. So basically I had on that white ScentLock waterproof vest, you know, a windproof vest. And then I had on a base layer, a merino wool base layer. It was Icebreaker brand, 260 weight. And I put this jacket on. And I thought I'd be knocked off stand in a short period of time because there really was hardly, just my merino wool underneath the sleeve. My arms never got cold at all. I was shocked. I had about a 15-mile-an-hour wind. My body was toasty warm. This Hydrotherm, I don't know how much longer they're going to have it in the line because it's Primaloft, and Primaloft is just really expensive. So I don't know if they're going to keep this in the line, but if you get an opportunity and you want something for cold weather, and you want something that's got activated carbon in it, this is my go-to suit now. I don't wear that ambush jacket very often anymore because this has replaced it. I wore that because ScentLok never made anything waterproof that was good enough for cold weather exterior garment, and this is waterproof, tape seams, Primaloft insulation. Had to do some alterations. I also altered the bibs. It came, the only way you can get that hydrotherm is with bibs, so I don't like bibs. So I had the bib part cut off and I made them into a pair of pants where you wear a belt. And these are exactly the same. It's got the same insulation as in the body of that jacket, Primaloft, and I had belt loops put on it. I just don't get cold in this, and I'm small. I usually get cold quick, and I typically wear body warmers. I don't even have to wear them with this stuff. It's just that warm. And that's another wind brace. This is actually a hunting pack, so I've got 2 wind brace suits in there because I wear wind brace a lot. Another piece, this is called their Fortress, and this is not mine. I borrowed this. This still has hang tags on it, I think. Yep, right there. Now this here is windproof. So I believe this has a membrane in it. I know ScentLok's also doing a lot of this never wet treatments on the exterior. And anytime you do a treatment to an exterior fabric to make it waterproof, it's a short-term fix. You have that suit very long and that's going to get compromised, you know, once you throw it through the dryer cycle a few times to deabsorb the molecules out of the carbon. That waterproof waterproof treatment is definitely going to go away. But this is called a Fortress. I've never worn it, but I've talked to several guys that I know that, you know, wear ScentLok and don't pay attention to the wind like I do, people that I've talked to over the years. And they bought this and they said this is a really awesome suit. Now this does not have Primaloft in it. This has Thinsulate, which is more common. That's what you see on most garments is Thinsulate. But they really loved it, blocked the wind. And again, anytime you're wearing something like the Hydrotherm or this one here, which is the Fortress, and they have another one, oh God, what's it called? It's called the Revenant. Revenant also has a treatment on it. Anytime you're wearing something like that, it doesn't need to be waterproof. All it needs to do is block the wind. So even though the Hydrotherm is waterproof, it doesn't need to be, because you're not going to wear that anytime it's going to rain or you'll sweat your butt off. You're only going to wear that when it's, I wouldn't even think of wearing that if it's, you know, above 25 degrees at any point in time. I'm going to be sitting. That's just too warm for this kind of stuff. Fortress is going to be a, you know, 0 to 20 degree suit, just like the Hydrotherm is. So anytime you get waterproof or windproof garments, again, they hold in your body heat. They keep the cold from coming in. They also help contain your body odor, because your body odor, your molecules cannot pass through the membrane, obviously. It's not permeable. So it actually holds in your odor, and the only place those odors can exit the suit is basically at the sleeve ends, around your collar, or around the waist, or at the bottom of your pant legs. So it actually helps contain your body odor. You know, if you're wearing this stuff in on long walks, you're going to perspire a lot because, again, it holds in your body odor. It doesn't allow it to, you know, to permeate through so you don't overheat. You will overheat. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed. There's lots and lots of brands. Nomad, I'm sure, makes waterproof stuff. And also keep in mind, you see a lot more stuff with membranes in it than you do without membranes, and there's a reason for that. When companies import membraned garments, they pay like a 7 or an 8% duty on it as far as tariffs. But when you import a garment without a membrane, a camouflage garment without a membrane, it's like 28% tariffs. So our government is trying to keep all the permeable manufacturing here. That's why they charge a lot more on tariffs to import products in the hunting industry anyway that do not have membranes. They want to keep that manufacturing here. So that's why you see so much stuff come in with membranes, because they can actually make it cheaper. They pay a lot less tariffs on it. So they use it as a selling point, but a lot of times, you know, early season, you really don't want something with a membrane. If it's, you know, anything above 45 or 40 degrees, you don't want something with a membrane, because you're going to perspire a lot, you know, especially in the south or even in the north early season. You just want to stay away from membrane stuff, because it's just going to make you perspire too much. It holds in your body heat too much. I think that's about it. Again, lots of companies make waterproof. A lot of companies make windproof. The differences between the two are strictly no tape on the seams. They have the same exact polyurethane and or Teflon membranes. So bear that in mind. Waterproof stuff definitely has its place. You know, I don't mind hunting in the rain. You know, I'm very selfish when it comes to hunting. I like to kill stuff. And I think in a pressured area, it's more of an advantage to hunt in the rain. You don't see as many deer in the rain, because typically does and other deer, subordinate bucks, move better on bluebird days. But I think mature bucks, at least that's been my history of all the data that I've collected, they like moving when it's inclement weather, you know, 15, 20 mile an hour winds, light rain, drizzle rain, you know, not a really hard rain or not a really hard wind, but something that'll mask their movements. Because when it's totally dry outside, you'll see a big buck, he'll take a step and he'll stop and he'll wait for, listen or visually look around for a reaction. When it's raining and they're moving through the woods, they move with a purpose. They're not as cautious. They just move from A to B. So I don't mind getting wet, or I mean, I used to not mind getting wet back in the 70s and into the 80s. They didn't really make any good rain gear. I just got wet, and I almost every year got the flu because I got wet and cold. So I would just go out there in my regular cotton or nylon, whatever, and just sit in the rain and get drenched to the bone and just deal with it. But nowadays they make great rain gear, and if you use it properly and at the right times of weather conditions, you know, when it's cold and windy, obviously if it's raining, it's awesome stuff. Thanks for watching another episode of Eberhart Outdoors, and please like and subscribe.